Good evening. Welcome to Equa TV Africa, the lifeline on Equa TV Africa. Today is an interesting day. You know, we'll be considering an interesting topic too. We discuss legal issues on this show and how it affects you and how you can relate with legal issues as they arise on a daily basis. I am Victoria Yemisi Olanio, and today we will be considering the topic land administration. This is a call-in show, so the phone lines will be open at 6:30. You can call in to make your contributions and to also make your comments or ask your questions. Land administration in this part of the world is what we'll be considering today. And the Bible in Genesis tells us that, you know, God created the heavens and the earth, and also he made the land, he made the seas and everything. So land is generally a natural resource and a natural blessing to man. And countries, nations of the world administer their territories, they administer their land, and we'll try to do justice to this as we go on in the course of the show. With me in the studio to discuss this topic is Barrister Ezang Awari. You're welcome.
Good evening, viewers.
And we also have Barrister Stephen Ahile to join us too.
Good evening, viewers. Thank you, Victoria.
You're welcome. Land administration. Barrister Ahile, what is land administration?
Land administration comprises of a wide range of things, but it's the way in which the rules of land tenure are applied and made operational. And these include a wide range of things. It consists of extensive range of systems that systems and processes that could include transfer of rights in land from one party to the other, which may be by sale, maybe through sale, leases, loan, gift, or inheritance. It also includes the regulation of land and property development, and the use and conservation of land is also included in land administration, and the gathering of revenues from land through loan, leases, and taxation. All these have to do with land administration.
Okay, thank you very much. Barrister Ezang Awari, what laws govern land administration in our clime?
Okay, thank you, Victoria. There are many laws that regulate land administration in this part of the world. Let me start with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Okay.
Giving example from home. In section 43 and also 44 of the Constitution, it allows every citizen of Nigeria to own land everywhere. And we also have the land registration laws of different states of Nigeria. And the same applies to other countries around the world, every country have their own laws that regulate the administration of land. In fact, it extends to even the Wills Act and Conveyancing Act that are in different countries and different states. When you come to a country, then you look at the different states in that country, particularly countries that have a semblance or that practice federalism. You now come to peculiarities. Certain states have also their own laws, like the land instrument registration law of some states. They have, others do not have some of these laws, but some other states do have it. And these laws largely regulate the administration of land, as has already been stated. And different institutions are involved in administration of land. You have, for instance, urban development control agencies. You have them in different countries, and you come down and you have them, like in Nigeria, we have the Federal Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development. So it's a ministry that deals with administration of land at the federal level. Then you come down to the various states. They do also have the various ministries administering land. Some call it Ministry of Lands. Some simply call it Ministry of Land Survey and Town Planning. And, you know, different agencies like that. Then you have we are in Plateau State here. We have just Metropolitan Development Board. There's a law also establishing it that was enacted by the Plateau State House of Assembly. And that law is the one that is regulating the development within the urban areas. And basically, in Nigeria, apart from the Constitution, the next most important law in regulating land in Nigeria is the Land Use Act. It's a very important law. It brought about change in administration of land in Nigeria since the enactment of that law. And it's a federal law, but it is applied in different states of Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Barrister Hilly, what are the impacts of these laws governing the administration of land?
Well, the impact is much, because the law is what regulates or guides or gives direction on how land should be administered. Let me just add that one of the most important laws that has been enacted lately, started with Benue State in Nigeria, and other states in Nigeria are also following suit, is the open grazing prohibition law of the various states. That many states are enacting this law prohibiting open grazing, and that is an important law that is also part of the land administration legislations. So back to the question. Everything is governed by law, even from God. It's God that started law. So when people think that lawyers are ungodly people, it's a mistake. It's not right. God is the originator of law, and so the lawyers are only ministers in the temple of justice. Even God is a God of justice. So these laws are what define what should be done in relation to land. In the past, land ownership was indefinite. People were given lands without, people who have ownership of land or right of occupancy indefinitely. But it has been circumscribed by law to 99 years.
Okay.
So when right of occupancy is given and the certificate is eventually issued, certificate of occupancy, it is for 99 years.
Okay.
It is a law that makes it so. And once that time lapses, the grant is without prejudice to the right of reversion. So that the land reverts back to the government. In Nigeria, the lands are with the governors. The governors hold in trust for the people.
Okay.
That is also by the law. The law still provides that anybody's land can be acquired by government for overriding public interests. However, it went further to provide that where such acquisition is made, the owners of the land have to be compensated. They have to be paid adequate compensation for unexhausted improvements on the land. It is the law that provides. So the law seriously impacts the various legislation fully and overwhelmingly impact the administration of land.
Okay.
In fact, that is what determines or gives the course of direction of the administration of land. So it is really impacted by the various legislations. In fact, there cannot be any administration of land without
the laws. Okay. All right. So
let me just add a little on to what my learned friend has said. This law, one of the impacts is that, like he stated in his definition of what is land administration, the law also specifies how transfer from one person to the other will be done. And the law also specifies how land will be inherited. For instance, if somebody is deceased and his land is there to be inherited by his children or anybody that is entitled to inherit him, they will need to have to go through the necessary law of if there is a will, the will specifies. So there are the wills, the law regulating wills is there, and then you also have administration letters of administration for those who die without wills. That is, we say in law they died intestate. So the law has made it quite impactful on how land administration will be for the citizens. And every clime, that is, every country has their own method of administering land. But are basically revolving within making life easy for the citizens and everything to be done within the ambit of law and order. Yes.
Thank you very much. We'll go on a short break. We'll be right back shortly. Thank you. You fix him. Okay, I didn't know. Okay, it's only when it's necessary for Welcome back to the show. We've been considering the topic land administration, and we have considered what is land administration, what are the laws governing land administration, and what is the impact, of the laws that govern land administration. Barrister Ahili, what is the process of land registration? If I have a land and I want to register it, what is the procedure?
Okay, the procedure of land registration. When you talk about land registration, it means the land has not been registered before.
Okay.
So it has to be registered. And it also means that land was not allocated by the agency of government responsible for allocation of land or registration of lands.
Okay.
In most of the states, it is the Ministry of Lands or Ministry of Land Survey and Town Planning that undertakes registration of lands.
Okay.
So the first thing is that a person must have a piece of land before he will carry out the registration. And different states have different procedures, but at least there are some basic things that are common. That one, you have to show your own root of title. How did you get that land? Is it by inheritance? Is it that you or your forebears, your forefathers were the first to clear the land and
settle
there?
Okay.
There are other unpleasant, there's one unpleasant aspect of acquisition that is recognized by law. By conquest, maybe some persons were warriors, so they attacked a certain village and conquered and took over the land, and it became their own. That is to say, that was before, that was in the Stone Age, where, the times of survival of the fittest. So if people acquired land through such means, it has become their land.
Okay, but that's not allowed.
That's not allowed. That's why I say in the Stone Age,
okay,
when it was survival of the fittest. Now that is no longer allowed. I say it's an unfortunate procedure, but people acquired by that, the law recognizes. If you had acquired like that before the state came into being in the way we are today, that survival of the fittest is no longer allowed, then you have it by that means. It could be by gift, it could be by inheritance.
Okay.
It could be that the extended family had the land, so they shared and gave you your own portion.
Okay.
So you have it. So there must be land belonging to the person who is seeking to register, and there must be a clear root of title.
Okay.
Then there is the requirement of, in some places they require the traditional rulers of the area to endorse the agreement or the document of the land, showing that the applicant is actually the owner of this land.
Okay.
And then there has to be a site plan. Before they were using site plan, but now they use survey plan,
Okay.
which is, should I say, international. Now it is connected to the geographic system that a surveyor can take it to now be connected. I think in Nigeria they use one, is it nautical point in Mina or so.
Okay.
They say that they use, so each, so the site plan or survey plan is connected to that, such that once it is done and put on the system, it can be identified and located anytime, anywhere by a surveyor who has the right knowledge and equipment.
Okay.
So after all this are done, the application is submitted. In most places, they require that the applicant has a tax clearance certificate with his identification. So he submits these documents. The land administrators in that particular government institution, we visit the land, the surveyors, we visit the land for inspection and do mapping and charting and all the processes and give a demand notice for fees to be paid and all of that. So when all these are done, they process and eventually issue the right of occupancy. And it is now known that this land is registered. And in most states now they have geographical information system. So they put it on the geographical information system that once they open the system, they know this land belongs to this person and all. That roughly is the procedure. It may not be strictly the same in each state, but each state has its own peculiarities. But the general thing is that you must have a valid title, you must have documents to show for your title, you file an application alongside with a survey plan, and they give you a demand notice, they do mapping and charting and everything, and then they process, and then a right of occupancy is eventually issued. And when that right of occupancy is issued, that land is registered, and the owner is now required to pay ground rent, as may be specified in the terms of the grant.
Okay. Thank you very much. Barrister Awari, who can own land? Who is eligible to own land, and in what way can one acquire such?
Okay, this is quite interesting. Anybody under the law can own land.
Okay, what do you mean by anybody under the law?
You know, in those days, there was a discrimination.
Okay.
As to whether women
can
own land, particularly inherit their fathers. Particularly in Africa, there was that. But recent developments in our law have outlawed that prejudice against women.
Okay.
So that's why I say anybody, including women.
Okay.
And children, of course, they can own land through their next friend or their guardian. We call it in law guardian ad litem. So that is for a child who is below the age of 18. If he inherits a land, there is usually a trustee who takes care of the land before the person will attain the age of majority, and then he's given the land.
Okay.
So there is no discrimination now as to who will own land. So ownership of land can be acquired by anybody, including governmental institutions and corporate organizations.
Okay.
So a corporate entity that is registered, validly registered, can apply to government for allocation. If government has an area that the government has acquired and is allocating, can apply and be allocated. Even religious organizations, they can apply for land and be given. So apart from individuals, corporate institutions can also apply for land and acquire it in line with the necessary regulations of land acquisition. So it's such that the law allows everybody without discrimination. But the law has fixed, like I mentioned, if the person is still a minor, the law has said through his next friend, that is an adult, or through his guardian ad litem, that's somebody who is holding the land in trust for him. And then any adult, whether male or female, can acquire land. And the mode of acquisition is either he gets it by gift, or he or she gets it by gift, or he or she gets it by purchase, or by conveyancing, that is transferring from one person to the other a land that is already registered with the different states' geographic information agencies of the various ministries of lands and survey in the states or in the country. So any land that is registered, we don't call it now purchase, we call it conveyancing. It is now transferred from one person to the other. Yes, so the land is assigned to the next person. So, but the land that is in the hands, any land that is not registered is considered as purchased. So then they can also get it through will. They can get it through will. They can get it by operation of the law. That is, you have gone to court and the court has determined the matter that the land belongs to A or the land belongs to B. So that is another method of acquiring land. And then my friend has already mentioned some of them earlier on. I don't want us to go back there. So anybody can own land.
That's very interesting. At least we women, we know that now we can go acquire land without any hindrance, even from the law. That's very interesting. Yes, there is this interesting thing that is happening. We have said that land could be inherited. It could be by transfer, by conveyance. It could be by purchase. But we hear of people sacking people from their land. We've heard of herdsmen, we've heard of bandits, taking over, a community and settling there. People, the owners have left. Is that a recognized mode of acquisition of land in our country? Barrister Ahile?
Not at all. That's almost like the conquest that I mentioned, that is an unfortunate mode of acquisition of land, and that it was recognized before in the Stone Age, when it was survival of the fittest. That someone said life was brutish and short. It is as it is now. It is an unacceptable way. It is evil. Unfortunately, the state looks the other way where these things are happening, and it's really unfortunate. Let me say that also that people have been talking about that land belongs to government. It's not right. Land does not belong to government. Land belongs to the people. The governors of the various states hold those lands in trust for the people. And that is where this issue of compulsory acquisition of land for overriding public interest comes in. That land can be acquired from anybody for overriding public interests. That's to say, where there is overriding public interest, the governor can revoke the land of a particular person. His title will be revoked, so the person no longer have that land. Apart from that, nobody can just go anywhere and acquire somebody's land, acquire another person's land. The way it is happening, that people are sacked from their ancestral homes and then the aggressors are staying on those lands. It is wrong, and it's something that government should look into it, or else it is injustice, and it is encouraging anarchy, that the people should rise up to fight, because it has become survival of the fittest, and that is completely wrong. It is unacceptable and highly condemnable.
Barrister Howard, do you have anything to add to that?
That method of land acquisition has outlived its utilitarian value. It is no longer recognized. That a group of people will just put themselves together, arm themselves, and go and meet a peaceful community while in their sleep, burn their houses, kill the ones they could kill, burn their food and everything, and sack the community, and then take over the land. That is act of terrorism. And the Nigeria and other countries around the world have adequate laws to deal with terrorist acts. So it is not an issue that, okay, we want to sack this community so that we take over their land. It is no longer acceptable because this is a state that is recognized internationally. Every African country is recognized internationally at the international plane. And so it means that there is a government that is in place. And every other country, every continent, they have every country. I'm not sure that there's any other part of this world that is not governed by a government. So there are governments in place. So anybody that does anything to attack communities so that you can take over land is no longer acceptable. So I want communities to use the law. Should there be any such thing happening in any community, those communities should use the law, should use the municipal laws. They can even use the international law to take back their lands. They should not, engage themselves into fighting, like my colleague has said, because it will degenerate into a state of anarchy.
That's true.
But then the community should be watchful as well, so that before it happens, they could get the security agencies involved, because it is the duty of government at all levels to protect lives and property of their citizens.
Thank you very much. We'll go on a short break. When we come back, the phone lines will be open, and you can call the number on your screen. We'll take your comments, you take your contributions and your questions. Thank you very much. Thank you. You're welcome back. We have been discussing land administration for those who are just joining us on the show. The phone lines will be open, and you can call to make your comments and your contribution. You can also drop your comments on our social media handles at Ekwa Television. So, Barrister Aware, we'll be looking at Barrister Ahile spoke about compulsory acquisition of land by government. What is this compulsory acquisition of land? And he made mention of overriding public interest. We need you to break it down so that our viewers will understand this. Okay,
thank you. When we're talking about acquisition of land by government compulsorily, it simply means that the government who holds land in trust on behalf of its citizens has a project that will site on the land that will benefit the entire populace.
Okay.
That means either there is going to be the establishment of a health center, okay, or there is going to be the establishment of a school, or there is going to be the construction of a road, all, just anything that will be utilized for the generality of the people. Okay. For instance, if the government is going to construct a dam, and my land happen to be part of it, the dam is for the utility of everybody, for the utilization of everybody. The water is good for everybody. Or a pipeline for water, there is no any other way that it will be diverted except it passes through my land. Of course, government has a right to revoke, because it will be for the good of everybody, but not for any other purposes. For instance, we have had instances where a revocation is made and it is now reallocated to private individuals for their private purposes. It doesn't stand in law. There are many judicial decisions that have gone up to the Supreme Court. Okay. And the Supreme Court has said no. That kind of revocation for overriding public interest and then now reallocated to private individuals, it does not work. Okay. Whatever has been done for the purpose of the community, I mean for the community now, it means everybody, not just a localized community. So whatever is for the good of the public is the main thing, is the signature of focus in this respect.
Sorry, I have to cut you. We have a caller on the line. Please, may we know your name? Hello? Hello?
Peace of God, my here.
Okay, you're welcome. You can make your comment.
Yes, I appreciate the talk that having in that studio.
Thank you very much.
I and my family are very much interested with your program. And I the two barristers that are handling the issue. So much I am in love with the person who mentioned the fact that these people who use a force to drive people out of their land and occupy should be tagged as terrorists. And I don't know why the whole clamor that people are calling for that, and it has not been done.
Hello, please can you turn down the volume of your TV set so that we can hear you clearly? Okay, sorry, we lost the call of Peace of God from Umar here. But, you know, before we lost that call, he was saying that the issue of people taking over lands, you know, forcefully from people, you know, he's also, you know, in line with our conversation that, you know, there should be terms as terrorists and government should deal with this issue decisively, because if they don't take this step immediately, it will become a cancer. And before you know, everywhere in the country, you know, it will be survival of the fittest, you know. So, sorry, we were also talking about the issue of compulsory acquisition. I don't know, I cut you, I don't know if you are done.
Right, I'm done.
Okay, thank you. All right, Barrister Ahile, do you have anything to say on that too, on compulsory acquisition of land by government?
Yes, I mentioned it earlier. Some that when compulsory acquisition of land is done, compensation is paid, adequate compensation is paid to the holders of the land for unexhausted improvements.
Okay.
Those unexhausted improvements could be farms, there could be economic trees, there could be developments, whatever, who qualify and they will have to be paid. And sometimes when these things are spoken about, the people look at them in a very abstract sense. But we all know that there are roads constructed across the country. At any time a road is to be constructed, the people are paid compensation.
Okay.
Normally they hold meetings, they write out the names of people whose lands have been affected by the road, and they will be paid compensation depending on what and how much of a person's land has been affected by the road. Sometimes it is even houses. They will have to pull down houses to construct the road. And I'm sure for people who are adults, they must have seen this at one time or the other. Even in the city, sometimes they have the need to expand a street. So maybe the street was narrow, and at the time of surveying that particular area, the population wasn't much. So the street was narrow, it was enough. Eventually, the city grew and there were so many people and there was need to expand the road because of traffic congestion. And then people whose houses are by the street are compensated, and then houses are pulled down and the streets expanded. That is
Mm.
those lands are acquired compulsorily for overriding public interest, which is that road. Lately, many airports have been built. People's lands were used and the lands were acquired, they were paid compensation. But that compensation must be paid. And by the Constitution, you cannot challenge the acquisition of land of your land for overriding public interest.
Okay.
The only thing you can challenge is that adequate compensation has not been paid.
Okay.
So you cannot say, no, you can't take my land. The court will not hear you on that. But if you go to court and say, my land has been taken without compensation, then the court will hear you.
Okay.
And the court will hear you. If you establish your case, adequate compensation will be ordered to be paid to you. But you cannot protest and say, you cannot acquire my land for use to construct a road or to build a university or to build a hospital or one thing or the other that is in the interest of the general public.
Thank you very much.
Just a moment. Let me just add to this. I like the way my friend analyzed this. The addition I want to make in that regard is that if the acquisition is made for overriding public interest,
Yes.
and then it later turns out that government is now allocating to private individuals, revoking from or acquiring from a private individual and now allocating to private individuals, the person has a right
To be challenged.
to go to court to challenge
Okay.
the revocation and then the reallocation.
Okay.
That it was, done for overriding public interest, but it has now turned back to be for private, allocated to private individuals, for maybe for businesses or something.
Okay.
So
That's the only instance where.
so these are instances, in addition to what they have said, that you can challenge the acquisition for overriding public interest by government.
Okay. Sorry, before we go on that, he made mention of payment of adequate compensation. What is adequate compensation? What if 4 plots of my land were taken, 2 of his was taken, and were paid the same thing? Will I be able to challenge that mine was more, and I don't consider that amount given to me, as adequate? Or is there a standard? Are there rates for which, this you can now know that, okay, this was actually adequate compensation?
Okay, thank you very much. Adequate compensation in this sense is the rates are official rates that government has fixed.
Okay.
Mainly, they come from, when you're doing that, it's a conglomeration of many agencies now. the rates are official from government.
Okay.
But what determines what any individual gets is the improvement, like you said, the unexhausted improvements on the land.
Okay.
If my land is just plain, no crops, no building, no nothing, I wouldn't expect to get the compensation that somebody else's land has a building
Okay.
or has some form of improvement, even if they are crops or economic trees. He will be compensated more than I, that my land has nothing.
Okay.
So the adequate there is a compensation for every hectare government has put.
Okay.
Or for every measurement, there's a compensation, official rate for it. And these differ from different state to different state.
Okay.
And then, of course, different country also to different country. But the issue is what determines the quantum of what anybody gets as compensation from public acquisition of acquisition for overriding public interest. Mainly is the improvements
On the land.
on the land.
Okay.
So these are the issues that really matter when it comes to the quantum of what anybody gets as compensation.
Okay, okay. I just wanted that to be clear so that I don't go to courts and then they were like, my case is thrown out because, I don't have a good case. Okay, Barrister Ahili, what are the challenges that you think our laws have? Are our laws adequate? The laws administering land, are they adequate? Or you think there should be something? What is the way forward?
This is a matter of opinion.
Okay.
In my own opinion, the laws are adequate.
Okay.
Is the implementation of the laws that is a problem. Sometimes people talk about agriculture and say that the land tenure system is a problem to agriculture and all of that. But I do not see it that way. It is the implementation that is a problem. I remember in many states there was an agricultural policy at a point that government acquired lands at different locations in several hectares, and citizens, members of the public could go to the agency responsible and just pay a rent for a year and use such lands. Even here in Plateau State, this one is not a government institution, but there is a church that has vast land in hundreds of hectares that they give out a hectare. They have a cooperative society that any member of the public could join, that people join and pay just, I think, 6,000 naira per hectare of land for a year to cultivate. So I do not see the land tenure system so much as a problem. Part of the problem we have is the institutions of government involved in the administration of land, because this is done at different levels. You have those dealing with survey and mapping.
Sorry to cut you. We have a caller from Umar here. Good evening. Please,
I want
may we
my
know your name?
My question.
Sorry, may we know your name first?
My name is Engineer Mazo.
Okay, thank you very
and
much.
I'm speaking from Abia State, Umuahia.
Okay, please, can you reduce the volume of your television set so that we can hear you?
The question I want to ask the lawyers and the presenter of this, in respect of somebody taking one's land, and the land is not having the CFO. If it don't have CFO, then is he going to be paid?
Okay. Okay,
Is he going to be paid?
Okay, thank you very much. His question
That's the
is,
question.
will he be paid compensation if his land is compulsorily acquired and he doesn't have title over the land?
Okay. All right. He will be paid so
Okay.
long as there's an establishment that the land is his own.
Okay.
That is why we have traditional institutions. So long as it is identified that the particular piece of land is his own. But let me add that the person that has title, that these are some of that's one thing I didn't mention earlier on when we were talking about, you know, the ingredients that determine adequate compensation.
Okay.
So if your land is without statutory title, that is, you do not have an RFO or a CFO, then you will not get the compensation as much as someone who has a title over the land.
Okay.
So if the land has no title, the person could still be compensated.
Okay.
Depending on the improvements now on the land.
Okay.
But the person that has title over the land may be compensated more than the person who does not, depending on the jurisdiction or the client, now the state, or wherever he is, because of the laws operating there. But certainly, the general practice is that someone who has a statutory title will get more than the person who does not have.
Yeah, let me just add that the law recognizes customary ownership of land. When the land is registered, the ownership is statutory. So the customary ownership is not defeated, just that it is not registered.
Okay.
But the process of registration also attracts expenditure. So if you expend and the other person just has customary, he didn't expend to register, then that registration too counts.
Okay.
Of course, valuation of the land is done. It involves licensed valuers who have a standard of valuation that they will value and say, this is this structure, this is the value. And it's based on that
Your
compensation will be paid.
Okay. Okay. So that is to say, you know, when you have title over your land, the value increases. So it is advised that, you know, you go and register your land, and, you know, even if you want to sell, you want to transfer by sale or whatever, you know, it increases the value of the land. Okay, I'm sorry, we're talking about the challenges we were facing with our laws, if there were, you know, but in your own opinion, really, it's not the laws that have the issue, it's the implementation.
Yes, it's the implementation, and we have, just like it is common knowledge, we have very weak institutions. I had a very interesting experience with a surveyor. We went to survey a particular parcel of land. The land is by a trunk, is it trunk A or B, Federal Road.
Okay.
And the guy started measuring just about maybe like 10 feet away from the road. And I asked him, why did you measure, why did you start your measurement very close to the road? And he told me something very interesting. He said by law, he's supposed to start measuring from the center of the road, 30 meters. From the center of the road, 30 meters, and then start from there, after this, 30 meters from the center of the road. I said, then why did you do this? He said, so that they will allow space for expansion of the road, further expansion if need be, for amenities like water, electricity, and communication lines. So that space, that allowance is given so that in case there is need to expand the road or pass those amenities, that will be done without interference with development. And it continued that if you carry out development close to an existing road like that, in terms of road expansion or passage of amenity lines, you will not be entitled to compensation.
Wow.
So I asked him, so why do you have to give this more space? the way you have done. He said that is what the people want. So he was not being professional. The laws are there, but you see, just go around. You see how people have developed very close to the roads, federal roads that could be expanded at any time. Recently, the federal government of Nigeria announced that they were going to dualize the road from Akwanga to Gombe. That's through 5 states.
Wow.
To pass through Nasarawa, Kaduna, Plateau, Bauchi, and Gombe. And then imagine how many people have developed, after the road has been there for several years, they now develop very close to the road. And surveyors will be there and fold their arms and watch. Urban development institutions will be there and fold their arms and watch. The federal ministries in charge of those roads will just be there and fold their arms and watch. So that is how it is in many, many other places. Things like, we're talking about land administration. Even landlords, who are landlords, are supposed to be paying tenement rate when they collect rent from tenants. They have to pay a percentage to the government. That is not done. These are things that will generate income for the states, that they will have internally generated revenue and start looking towards Abuja for the oil money in the case of Nigeria. But these things are not done. They are not following up on people who have title, even those who have registered their title. Some people have not paid ground rent for more than 10 years, some for more than 20 years. They are supposed to have their contacts. You give them demand notice, and in fact, it can be a ground for revocation if you fail to pay ground rent. But these laws are there dormant, and they're just left in abeyance. They're not being used. So is it the fault of the law? It's not so much of the inadequacy of the law, but the weak institutions that are there to implement these laws.
Thank you very much. Barrister Izangawari, please, can you just, your final words?
Okay, my final words is on this issue of whether the laws are adequate or not, is to say that as society evolves and develops, of course, with the coming into age of digitalization in land administration, many states are yet to reflect the digitalization in their respective laws. Even the Land Use Act that we operate in Nigeria has not been amended to capture the various geographic information systems being operated in the various states. And so at that point, you can say that there is need for an amendment to rejig the law. And then different laws of land administration in different states and perhaps in different countries of the world, they also need to look at it, especially with the evolution of technology in land administration.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Barrister Ahili, just 30 seconds.
Well, let me say, like he said, I said earlier that the laws are adequate. That is not to say they do not need to be amended to catch up with current trends. And let me also say this, that we need to register our lands. In that way, the land is more secured, and in terms of transfer or disputes, it is easier to handle than any other way. So land registration, which is part of land administration, is very important.
Thank you very much. That's the much we can take on this show. And from the various last words and advices we have from our guests on the show is that we should take care of the land we have, because it's a blessing from God, and ensure that we stay out of disputes, because land disputes are not good disputes that we want to engage in, because they can drag for years and years. So please, you do well to join us next week, same time on the show. Thank you very much. Have a blessed evening.